What's up, guys? Horror Man back for another review. So getting back into the Michael Keaton Batman reviews here. Today we're going to take a look at the Gold Label The Flash Batman Unmasked figure by McFarlane Toys. So just taking a look at the figure here in the box. It does come in that standard McFarlane packaging we've seen over and over. But of course you do get the Flash movie logo on there. It just says Batman, DC Multiverse, and then you do have the Gold Label logo at the top. Over to the back you get this really cool artwork, very nostalgic and kind of reminds me of the artwork from Batman Returns. But yeah, I'm all for this. I really like this packaging on the back. It does say Batman, the Flash at the top. You do get the McFarlane Toys logo on there, get a QR code and some of the social media links. Not much on the side, just some of the QR codes and just kind of title for the series. A little bit of the credits on the bottom, UPC code. There is a masked version of this figure, of course. I don't have it yet, and I'm sure I'll probably get it in June sometime, so I'll probably review it closer to when the movie actually comes out. There's also a Batmobile, which I'm really hoping to review that as well. But let's go ahead and get this out of the box and have a closer look. Alright, so here he is outside of the packaging. Now you do get a card insert inside of the packaging, and you can see you have a couple things stuck to it. So you do have the stand that comes with all the McFarlane toys, and it has the DC logo on it. And then you also get this really cool trading card, which features the same artwork we saw on the back of the packaging. And I definitely like that. And if you turn the back of the trading card over, you can get a little bit of a data file or a read-up based on this Batman's inclusion in the Flash movie. I'll go over the details with the figure, the articulation, accessories, do some comparisons, and of course I'll give you my final thoughts at the end. But let's go ahead and start by taking a look at the unmasked head sculpt. Now straight on, I can't say it looks a lot like Michael Keaton. Like I said, straight on, I don't think it looks like him. And I think one of the biggest problems with this head sculpt is they just don't put enough details in his face, like the lines in his face, you know, any kind of age or like, I don't know, he kind of looks a little cartoony in the face because he doesn't have any lines in his face. So that's one thing I think they really left out of this figure. Even if he was in his 20s, he would still have some kind of lines in his face. So they kind of missed the mark on that. But like I said, like looking at him straight on, I don't know, I don't really think it looks like Michael Keaton that much. But if you turn his head sculpt a little bit and you look at him from like more of a 3/4 turn or like a profile, it starts to look like him. So it's a kind of an interesting head sculpt. So I definitely see the potential with this head sculpt. I don't think it's perfect, but I do think in the right lighting and the right angle, it definitely looks like Michael Keaton. I do think they did a really nice job with the hair. He's got really good texturing in the hair, and I do think the style's right. And even though they don't have a lot of lines in his face, especially in the forehead, you do have lines like in his neck and other areas of his face, like his lip, that definitely show some details, so it's not like too cartoony. So I do think that the details aren't too bad in the face. And like I said, as soon as you turn his head to like an angle or a 3/4 turn, you could definitely see the Michael Keaton likeness. So I do think it's got some, you know, room for improvement, and I do think a customizer would probably have a field day with this one. And here's a shot of the back of his head just to show the texturing in the hair. Alright, so looking at the rest of the body, starting with the torso, for the most part it's pretty good. I will say the logo on my particular figure isn't that clean, so if you're interested in buying this figure, you may want to try to find one in stores so you can kind of pick through the best ones. That's what I like to do. But I ordered it online, so I didn't have any choice. But yeah, the logo could definitely be a little bit cleaner. I do like the musculature build of the suit. So, I mean, Keaton's not a huge guy, but the suit definitely kind of makes him look a little bit more intimidating. So I think they did a pretty good job with that. The neck piece is kind of interesting. You never really saw the 89 or 92, like Batman Returns Batman, without his mask, unless he tore it off like he did in Batman Returns. So it's kind of interesting to see him in this suit without the cowl. You never seen it. So yeah, that's where this kind of interesting collar piece comes in. It's almost like the logo is like part of like a necklace or something, the way it's sculpted. But it is pretty cool to see him without the mask in this costume. The belt is interesting. I do like all the gadgets and everything, or like the little parts that are on there, but it's black, which I don't understand. So I guess that's how it looks in the movie, and looking at the trader card, that's what it looks like on the trader card as well. So that's just a personal preference thing. I do wish the belt would have been yellow or like a gold. But yeah, that's the way it looks, so it does look like it's accurate. But for the most part, yeah, I do think it looks pretty good in general. I do like the armor. I really like the gauntlets in this one. They kind of mimic the kind of plate armor on the boots, so that looks pretty good. And you got some pretty sharp looking spikes on there. I will say the pins and the articulation are huge. They're way bigger than the other McFarlane toys that I've looked at. I was just looking at the Batman, like the Robert Pattinson version, and those pins are definitely smaller. So I'm not sure why they went with these giant pins. So I'm definitely hoping McFarlane goes pinless at some point. The armor on his back looks pretty good, fairly basic, but it definitely mimics the way the '89 Batman looks. And then you also have a couple little extra pockets on the back of the utility belt. The sculpting on the gloves looks pretty good. I definitely like the '89 style gloves better. But one thing really nice about this figure is you do get 4 different hands, so you will have some interchangeable hands for this Batman, which is awesome. And the ones that come on him inside of the box are going to be the gripping hands. So you got a regular gripping hand for his left hand, and then you have a trigger gripping hand for his right hand. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And finally, down to the lower half of the figure, you do have some really nice armor on the legs, a little bit reminiscent of the Dark Knight Rises and the Dark Knight. Basically have like that kind of plate armor, and you can see some different texture on like the thigh area, and then there's a little bit of like a gap in between like that and here. But yeah, I really like the way they did it. Nice transition from the shorts into the legs. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that. I really like the boots. Now, I mean, it is a little dirty the way they painted it, but it is kind of nice to see a little bit of extra detail on the boots. Looks like he's been stepping in some mud or something. But I do like that. And then over to the back again, some decent detail in the armor. I like the little bit of differences, a little bit of texture going on, a little bit of differences in the black. Not a ton of difference, but just enough. But yeah, the paint on the boots, or like the look that they have going on, is pretty neat. And you do have peg holes on the bottom of the feet. One nice bonus about this Batman is that you actually get the cloth cape, which is not something you see from a lot of McFarlane toys, Batman included. So you can see you get a really nice size cape on here. It can drape pretty nicely. Now the one thing about it is you still can't really get it in front of him without it looking weird. So that's one downside about it. But if you get the Batmobile, that's one huge benefit. You can actually have him sit in the Batmobile. It will drape behind him just fine, so that's not bad. But yeah, it's still nice to get that cape. I really do not like those hard plastic capes. Another plus for the cloth cape is the fact that it won't limit your articulation as much, so that's definitely a huge plus. So taking a look at the head, you could definitely rotate his head really far, and you can get some really nice angles to his head here, so if you got some emotion you want to express. And then you can look down pretty good. You can look up pretty good as well. So pretty good range in that head. The neck does not move. The arms are a bit of an issue. Because of the armor, it's hard to get him to go out farther than that. He can go up all the way, down all the way. He's got double hinge articulation in the elbows, so he can have insane range, you know, crazier than someone would have in real life. But yeah, you can't really get him to do the T-pose, man. That's strange. So yeah, the way they did this arm, and I've tried to go farther out, but it pops off. But you can see there's that extra bit of articulation in here. So he can kind of shift the shoulder. And that's pretty cool. You can move the bicep, you just have to hold the shoulder to do that. There's no rotation at the gauntlet. The hands can't really, oh yeah, they can angle up just fine, yep. And then you got good articulation on the wrist. Now he does move good in the waist. You can look down really far. You can go back really far. You can angle his body in case you want to do like that walking pose or like a charging pose. You can twist. Really good. Legs can go out that far. He can do a crazy kick. Really good range on that. Double hinge articulation in the knee. Leg goes back far. Not much articulation in the way of a thigh swivel. That's okay though. Sometimes they cut that thigh and it kills the aesthetic for me. No boot rotation. Foot can go up really far. Down real far. Nothing really, not much at the ankle rocker. Does have a toe articulation. So overall, not too bad of articulation on this guy. You do get some interchangeable hands. So you basically get an extra set of hands, which are both going to be the fisted hands. And those look pretty good. Same details you see in the hands that are already on him. And then again, the hands that are on him inside the box are just going to be his gripping hands. Besides the interchangeable hands, you do get two accessories with Batman. So you're basically going to get his classic Batarang and his grapple gun. Now these are done in silver, which is kind of interesting. I've never seen these in silver before. I'm guessing they probably just did it for the figure. I don't think this is how they're going to look in the movie. But yeah, overall, decent details in these. And just like I said with the head sculpt, I think a customizer would probably have a field day with these. Would definitely paint them up a little differently. Here he is holding the Batarang, and you could definitely easily hold it with his right gripping hand, although it is a little loose in his hand. Since he does come with two gripping hands, he can also hold it in his left hand, and again, it's a little loose. Here he is holding the grapple gun in his right hand. I do think the grapple gun might be just slightly too small, but he does seem to grip it okay. Here he is in a little bit more grapple gun pose, and here he is holding the grapple gun with his left hand. Interchanging the hands is pretty simple. Just barely have to pull it. And then you just want to pop that on. And there you have the fisted hands. And I'm definitely happy with this because you really don't see a lot of these Batman McFarlane figures coming with interchangeable hands. So it's nice that they at least gave it to this Michael Keaton Batman. And one more quick thing in case you were trying to do like a custom with this. The head will pop off of here pretty easily. Now I do have a really cool 89 head sculpt. It's basically like a shrunken down Hot Toys head sculpt that Does Machines 84 painted for me. But unfortunately it just doesn't fit. His neck's a little too thick, the peg's too tall. It doesn't look like it's going to fit on here without a lot of customization. So that's unfortunate. So for the first comparison, here he is next to the Unmasked Michael Keaton figure I have, and that's going to be a custom NECA Toys version. And again, this is that same Does Machines 84 painted custom head sculpt. And man, this McFarlane version is tall. I know the NECA one's a little short, but I do think they went just a little too tall for this Michael Keaton Batman. For the next comparison, here he is with the standard 1989 NECA Toys Batman, and then the Batman Begins Batman, played by Christian Bale. And as I said, the unmasked McFarlane Batman is definitely tall. For the last NECA comparison, here he is next to a couple of custom Jokers. This is a NECA Toys Joker, just has a custom painted head sculpt by Custom Freak. And then this is a really cool Mattel Joker, but Does Machines 84 He did this really cool custom with it. For your first McFarlane Toys comparison, here he is with the Dark Knight Rises Batman, played by Christian Bale, and The Batman, played by Robert Pattinson. And as Batman figures, they look really good next to each other, but in real life, Keaton is definitely a little bit shorter. And here's another McFarlane Toys comparison with the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn figure. For your 6-inch scale comparison, here he is next to the Mezco 1989 Batman and the Mezco Toys Batman vs Superman Batman. For the last 6-inch scale comparison, and I say 6-inch scale lightly because one of them's a little taller, one of them's a little under. So here's the Batman Begins figure made by Mafex, and he's a little smaller than usual 6-inch scale. And then you also have the Alfred made by Mattel, which actually included a Michael Gow head sculpt. And he's a little taller than a 6-inch scale, so he actually looks more compatible with this Michael Keaton Batman. Alright, and for the final comparison, let's go ahead and go way back to 1989, or I should say 1990, and that's when this Kenner Dark Knight collection debuted. And this is the Crime Attack Batman, which was their basic black suit Batman for the line. And then you also have the Quick Change Batman, which did have the unmasked Michael Keaton head sculpt, which was really cool, especially when I was a kid. And just to throw one more vintage comparison in here, here he is with the original 1989 Toy Biz Batman. And there's a few versions of this. The faces are a little different. But this was a really cool Batman, and this was actually out when the movie came out before Kenner made toys. But this one had that really cool retractable belt, which I'm sure a lot of people my age or a little bit younger will remember. Really cool to see how much figures have changed over the years. Alright, so that's my review of the Gold Label, aka Unmasked Batman from The Flash. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I know some people have kind of complained about the face, but I don't know. For the most part, especially on different angles, I think it looks alright. Looking at him straight on, I could definitely see why somebody would say he doesn't look like the same actor. Like, I could see them getting him confused with someone else. But I can't say it enough. Like, once you just turn his head sculpt, it definitely looks like Michael Keaton. So I think the look is actually pretty good. I just think it's the lack of lines in the face that really make him look like Michael Keaton. You just need some kind of forehead lines, a little bit of like maybe some lines underneath the eyes, just something to show a bit more age to him. I do think the weapons look a little bit on the cheap side with just like the silver paint job. So I'll have to see how they look in the actual movie. I really don't think they're going to look like this, and I definitely wish they were a little bit more in line with what we're used to with the black and like the gold tips. So that's something we'll have to figure out eventually when we see the movie. So as I said, I don't think it's accurate. And I do wish the weapons held better in the hands. They're just a little loose. But having a couple accessories and interchangeable hands is definitely a huge plus for a Batman figure. The arm articulation is a bit of a downside of this figure, especially since it's going to limit you from doing like the flight pose or just having his cape kind of sprawled out. But I do like that he has a soft goods cape, and I do think the articulation is pretty good for the most part. I don't like those big pins sticking out, so that's a little disappointing. But I really do like seeing McFarlane do these cloth capes, and I hope he does that more in the future with these Batman figures. And honestly, you know, he could probably step it up on the price a little bit if he can get some wire in these capes. But I definitely prefer this look over those hard plastic capes. So overall, I definitely think it's worth picking up, especially if you're a Michael Keaton Batman fan. You should be able to find this at Target, either online or in store. So thanks for watching my review. If you liked the video, go ahead and like it. If you have a question or comment, leave that in the comments section below. And until next time, guys, see ya.